Hey there, welcome back. Today we are talking about if you're nervous about how to trust yourself around Halloween candy, then I'm sharing some tips on how you can normalize having candy as part of your weight loss journey. This was always a struggle for me. I definitely was constantly like craving candy, feeling guilty about that. And then like I just had this really bad relationship with food, especially sweets. And it was really hard on me emotionally. So anytime I had candy around me, I'd eat all of it. And that just like, I don't know. I'd either eat it all and make myself feel sick, or I'd ask someone to hide it and then I'd still crave it and then like go look for it. So it was just this big struggle. And I always felt so guilty and I was always so stressed. But Halloween has always been one of my favorite times of year. And so this was really conflicting for me because I want to have a normalized relationship with food, with candy, with this time of year so that I can enjoy this holiday, dress up, enjoy myself, and not have like all of my mental energy consumed by, oh, there's candy here. I need to go have candy. So that was a big struggle for me. And I would even like hide the wrappers in my closet or under my bed so that I could throw them away over time so that either my parents or my roommates couldn't tell how many I was eating at a time. Like it was ridiculous. And I know that it's not just me. So that's why I'm sharing this, because it's not just me that deals with this. And I have come a long way. Like there's legitimately a bowl of Halloween candy on my kitchen table because it looks cute. Like it's such a different mindset now. I'm not controlled by it. Last year we had Halloween candy until Easter. It's ridiculous how crazy I used to feel around it compared to now. So if this story resonates with you, it doesn't surprise me at all. We're going to talk about some tips to like help you to kind of break this cycle for yourself because it is not fun to be in. So if this is the first video you're watching of mine or the first podcast you're listening to, I am Mallory, the weight loss habits nutritionist. I teach busy women how to simplify their weight loss by making small shifts to their existing habits so your weight loss doesn't feel like a full-time job and you don't have to restrict all of your favorite foods just to lose weight. Like we're not going on diets, we're changing habits slowly over time so that you have the lasting weight loss that you want rather than constantly going on diet after diet. So today we're going to be talking about some tips on how to like normalize having that candy around. So let's talk first a little bit about why this has kind of become such a problem in our culture. So for the most part, what I would say this is caused by is that diet culture specifically demonizes sugar to the point where there are certain health professionals and there are certain like doctors and media that's trying to make you feel guilty for liking sugar. But our brains are wired to like crave carbs. So it's this dichotomy where we want it and we're told we shouldn't want it. And that becomes a problem because we feel guilty for wanting something that tastes good. And then like Halloween tends to have this reputation for being a tipping point for women, especially to get off track of your health goals and your weight loss goals for like the remainder of the holiday season. So you start getting off track at Halloween, and then the next 2 months, you're just like, I don't care. There's holiday parties, Thanksgiving, Christmas, any other holidays you may celebrate during the winter season. That's Gimli. Just in case you're wondering if you can hear weird sounds on the podcast, Gimli's jumping up behind my head. If you're on YouTube, you can see him. He's so funny. Always wanting to hang out with me while I'm working. But anyway, it's really easy for us to get off track because um, we start eating sugar at Halloween, and then you're like, okay, well, there's these other holidays, so screw it. I'm just going to enjoy the holidays and start at the new year. And one of the ways that I broke myself of this cycle of like losing the last 2 months of the year for my health goals was to give myself permission to eat candy year round, not just on certain days, not just at a party, but if I craved it, I would eat it. That sounds very scary. I am aware. And yes, I did end up eating more candy at first than I had been, kind of, except that when I would have free access to it, like on Halloween, I'd eat an entire like 2 pounds worth versus when I started giving myself permission to eat candy, I'd have like 3 to 5 a day. Like it's very different. Um, so if you're having a few pieces of candy a day, it's not going to hurt, especially as you get used to it. You're not going to be as like controlled by those cravings because you're like, okay, cool, I'll have some. And then it stops being this out of reach thing that you tell yourself you can't have or that you shouldn't have. And it becomes like, okay, well, that's fine. It's always around. So I will just have some later. If I can have it whenever I want, then I'll eat it later, you know? And it does take time to work up to that. I had to do this with ice cream too. In college, if I had ice cream in my freezer, the entire like pint carton would be gone in 2 days. We have had butter pecan ice cream in my freezer to the point now where it's like almost freezer burned because I just always have it and it's not that interesting. But if I want it, it's there. And that is such a different mindset. And that is a big thing that I work through with clients. So this takes so much like changing of mindset. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of like courage almost to go against what society is saying of like, oh, well, just don't bring it in the house. No, actually, you can have it in the house. I always have candy in my house. It's Halloween. I still have candy from last Christmas. That's just where I'm at because it's always available. I don't crave it. And then when I want some, I have a little bit, and then I don't feel the guilt and I can move on. This took me years. So my goal is to help you all get there a lot faster than it took me. So when I worked with one of my clients last year, we were working toward this goal of like being able to normalize sweets, having stuff around. And one of her biggest wins was that she made a batch of cookies and it was still on the counter in a bag 3 days later, instead of her eating the entire batch of cookies within 2 days. And then after a week, she's like, I still have a couple. Yeah, it's just there. I know they're there. I know I can have them. But because I know that, I don't really need it. And that is so freeing. And I want that sense of freedom for you. And again, it can be really challenging. So this is one where if you want to get past like the feeling of fear around sweets, you want to really push past like this mindset of I can't have it in my house, or I have to have my husband hide it from me, or like one of the ones that I've also been working on lately is Cheez-Its, because I kept craving them and then I got into the thing of like, oh, well, I just won't buy them. No, buy them. And now I've had this box for 2 weeks and it's fine. But it took me eating them for a couple of weeks to get used to them again and be like, okay, this is fine. They aren't really my favorite, so I don't have to eat them all the time. So anyway, this one really does take a while. It really is something that the support is helpful for. So I would love to support you through this process. I do have openings for one-on-one coaching between the end of the year, or now and the end of the year. So if you want to tackle this sugar craving, overeating cycle and break past it, I would love to chat with you about coaching, because that will really be like the most beneficial thing for you to break through this mindset thing, to get to the point where you are completely comfortable around sweets and not having to focus on all of the food at the family parties you go to this holiday season, but instead you can enjoy that you're there with family. So I'd love to work with you on this. This is something that I'm very passionate about. I can't tell if you can tell. I'm sure you can. But don't let just one day this week derail you for the next 2 months of the year. If you're curious about how to give yourself permission to enjoy candy, if you feel terrified about it, send me an email with the email mallory@dailyhabitsnutrition.com, or on IG as weightloss.habits.nutritionist. Or you can head over to my website. I'll drop this in the comments or the show notes. It's going to be the link to a short little video that talks about what one-on-one coaching with me is like, so that you can decide whether or not you want to apply for coaching. But again, if this is something you're trying to break through, that would be like the key next step. All right, ladies, thank you so much for joining me today on how to enjoy Halloween candy without guilt. If you liked today's video, be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any future trainings, and I will talk to you next week.